Hello, this is Ms. Leyva, and for today's lesson, we are continuing with day 2 of theoretical probability predictions. So we're making predictions based on what should happen in probability events. Let's go ahead and get started. Our learning objectives: students will know how to make a prediction using theoretical probability for both simple and compound events. Students will understand how to use proportions to solve for theoretical predictions for simple and compound events. And lastly, students will be able to read and solve word problems involving theoretical probability predictions for simple and compound events. So just a reminder from yesterday, theoretical probability predictions, basically probability can be used to make a prediction for future events. And the way that we do that is we set up and we solve a proportion. So let's go ahead and get started on example number 1. A bag contains 6 red tiles, 2 blue tiles, 3 yellow tiles, and 4 green tiles. A tile is drawn, the color is recorded, and then the tile is placed back into the bag before a tile is drawn again. If this procedure is done 25 times, how many red tiles should you expect to draw? So first thing I notice is that the only thing they want me to draw out is a red tile. So this is going to be considered a simple event. So I should be able to find the probability of getting a red tile first. So if I look at the bag, how many chances do I have to get out a red tile? So I can either look at the picture or I can come back up to the word problem. I only have 6 red, so I have 6 chances of getting a red tile. And then for probability, remember we always set it up with the total possible outcomes as our denominator. So for my total possible outcomes, I can either count the tiles on the picture or I can add the numbers that were given in the word problem. So I'm going to add the numbers from the word problem. So 6 red, 2 blue, 3 yellow, and 4 green. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So it looks like the bag has 15 tiles in total. So our chances to pick out red right now is 6 out of 15. So remember with probability, if you can, you should always go back and try to simplify the fraction or the ratio. So I noticed that 6 and 15 can both be divided by 3, so I'm going to simplify that by 3. And so my chances of me picking out a red tile from this bag should be 2 out of every 5 times. But let's go back and look at the question. The procedure is not going to be done 5 times. It's going to be done how many times? It's going to be done 25 times. So what that means is I have to make a prediction, and if I'm making a prediction, I should be setting up and solving a proportion. So we're going to take the probability of red, which was 2 out of 5, and we're going to set up our proportion. So it says we're going to do the procedure 25 times. So 25 is basically considered a total. So where do I typically put totals for probability? Well, as the denominator. So I'm going to put that 25 down as my denominator. And so my numerator should be x. That's going to be what I'm trying to figure out right now. So remember, with proportions, you have several different ways that you can solve them out. So for this one, I noticed that I can get a cross from 5 to 25. So from 5 to 25, I can just multiply times 5. Remember, whatever you do to the bottom, you also do it to the top. So in order for me to find out how many times I should be able to get red, I just need to multiply 2 times 5, which gives me x equals . So if I do this experiment 25 times, I should be able to get a red tile 10 out of those 25 times. Moving on to example number 2, Judith flips a coin and she rolls a 1 through 6 number cube 60 times. So how many times would she expect to flip a tails and roll a 2? So notice we have 2 events happening, so that means we have a compound event. So first we have to find the probability for each event happening. We have to find the probability for each event happening individually. So let's go ahead and do that first. So the first thing is for the coin, they want me to land on tails. So I'm going to do the probability of landing on tails first. So we should know this one already. The probability of landing on tails, there's only 1 tails on a coin out of 2 total sides. So 1/2 or 1 out of 2. Now for the number cube, they want me to roll a 2. So if I look at a dice, how many sides have 2 dots or the number 2 on it? Well, there's only one number 2 on there out of 6 total sides. So my chance of landing on a 2 is 1 out of 6. So remember, with compound events, once you have the probability for both events happening individually, you're going to take those two probabilities and you're going to multiply them. So the probability of tails and a 2 would be 1/2 times 1 out of 6. When we're multiplying these fractions, remember, you just multiply straight across. So 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 6 is 12. So for this probability, I don't have to simplify it because it's already in lowest terms. Anytime that you have a numerator of 1, you don't have to simplify it because you can only simplify it by 1, but that will give you the exact same answer. So our chances of landing on tails and getting a number 2 is 1 out of 12. But let's go back to the question. She's going to do this how many different times? Tells me she's going to do this 60 times. So I'm making a prediction what should happen if she does this 60 times. But if I'm making a prediction, remember, I do have to be setting up a proportion. So for that 60, the 60 times, that's considered a total. So that should go at my denominator or at the bottom. And so x is what I'm trying to find on top. Again, with proportions, you have several different ways that you can solve it. So for this proportion, I'm going to come up to the letter x. So looking at the ratio on the left, I have 12 and I'm trying to get up to 1. So if I'm going from 12 to 1, I know that the number is getting smaller. So I'm dividing by something. So 12 divided by something is 1. 12 divided by 12. Any number divided by itself is going to give you 1. Remember, with proportions, whatever you do to the left side, you also do it to the right side. So to get my solution, I take 60 divided by 12, which will give me x equals 5 times. So it looks like if she does this 60 times, 5 of those times, she should be able to get tails and the number 2 on the dice. Moving on to our last example, Raquel has 2 dice. She wants to throw them both at the same time and have them both land on even numbers. If Raquel throws the dice 60 times, how many times can she expect to have them both land on even numbers? So again, she's doing more than one thing right now, so this is going to be another compound event. And for this compound event, she's throwing 2 dice. So for the first dice, she wants it to land on an even number. So if I'm looking at a dice, I have the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. My even numbers are the numbers that are divisible by 2's, which would be 2, 4, and 6. So how many chances do we have to pick out an even number? Well, I underlined 3 even numbers, so I have 3 chances out of 6 total numbers on the dice. But remember, with your probability ratios, if you can simplify it, you should always go back and simplify. 3 out of 6, I notice I can divide them both by 3's, which will give me 1 out of 2. So the probability for the first dice landing on an even is 1/2. Well, what about the second dice? I still want to land on an even number, so I'm still going to have 3 chances out of 6, which we've already figured out. If we simplify it, it's actually just 1 out of 2. So I have the probability of both events happening, 1/2 for one and 1/2 for the other. Remember, when 2 events are happening at the same time, so probability of even and even, I'm going to take those 2 probabilities and I'm going to multiply them. So 1/2 times 1/2. When you're multiplying fractions, remember, you just multiply straight across. 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4. So it looks like the probability of both of the dice landing on even numbers is 1 out of every 4 times. Let's go back to the question though, because we are making a prediction. What is Raquel going to actually do? She's going to throw the dice 60 times. So we are going to make a prediction, which means that we are going to set up a proportion. So we're going to take the probability of the 2 events happening at the same time, which was 1 out of 4. And we're going to set up our proportion. So that 60 again is considered a total. So I'm going to put that as my denominator. And I'm trying to figure out the x on top. Again, with your proportions, you have several different ways to solve it out. So for this proportion, I'm going to go from 4 up to the number 1. So how can I get from 4 to 1? I'm getting smaller, so I know I'm dividing, and any number divided by itself is 1. So I'm dividing by 4. 4 divided by 4 will give me the 1. Whatever I do to the left side, I must also do it to the right side. So I'm going to go ahead and divide this out to figure out how many times she should get even numbers on both dice. So it looks like out of the 60 times, she should be able to get both dice to land on an even number 15 times. So our prediction is that it should happen 15 times out of 60.